All right, hello everyone. Good evening, good morning. How are y'all? Let's start. So, hello. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Dina, and I'll be hosting today's symposium, the 28th English Symposium about Singapore. And as you can all see, today I have with me tutor Cassandra and Irma, both of them here. And as you already know, today's symposium will focus on Singapore and its language and more about its life there. So first, we will start with Irma's presentation. She will talk about linguistic diversity in Singapore. And then we will continue with Cassandra's presentation. That would be about how to order coffee and tea in Singapore. Also, if you have any questions for tutors or, of course, comments about presentations, please feel free to write in the chat during the stream, and we will talk about your question after each of their presentations. And let's not forget, we will also give away 500 points for 5 lucky winners from those who comment around during the streaming. So feel free to post your comments there. All right, and I will change to Japanese as well. 皆さんこんばんは、こんにちは。おはようございます。本日のホストをさせていただきますカフェトークのリナと申します。本日の英語シンポジアムは第28回、8回の英語シンポジアム、シンガポールについてを知ろうというシンポジアムですが、本日は2人の講師に参加させていただきます。で、カサンドラ・ブース先生と、イルマ先生、こちらのお二方です。皆さんがもうすでにご存知かと思いますが、本日のシンポジアムはシンガポールについてになります。で、シンガポールにもちろん公用語についてとか、英語についてとか、暮らしや街並みとかについてとか、で、今回のシンポジアムでは深く、深掘りすることになります。で、まずは、イルマ先生からシンガポールの言語の多様性について発表していただきます。その後、カサンドラ先生から、シンガポールでのコーヒー、紅茶の注文の仕方について発表していただきます。で、講師への質問とかもちろんコメントがあれば、それぞれの発表の後に、英語でも日本語でも気軽にチャットボックスの方、右側の方のチャットボックスの方で書いていただいて、いただければ幸いと思います。あとは、もちろん皆さん、以前もまた抽選会とかやったことはあると思うんですけれども、ライブ配信中にコメントをくれた方の中から、抽選で5名様に500ポイントをプレゼントします。なので、どんどんたくさんコメントをお送りください。それではまた英語の方で切り替えします。Alright then, so this is about an introduction, and we would like to start first, as said before, with Irma K here, and then we continue with Cassandra. So when you are ready, Irma, we can start with your presentation.
All right, ready anytime. Thank you, Lina. Hello, everyone. はじめまして。My name is Irma, or Irma, or Irma, depending on your pronunciation. Either way is fine. I was born and raised in Indonesia, and then I came to Singapore for study. So I entered university in Singapore, and I started working here. And before I knew it, I have lived in Singapore for more than 24 years. So today I would like to introduce about this tiny, magnificent country called Singapore, and specifically about the linguistic diversity in Singapore, because we have a lot of languages that we speak in Singapore. Now, about Singapore. Singapore is the 20th smallest countries, one of the smallest countries in the world, with a population of just short of 6 million people as of this year. And out of these 6 million people, or 5.92 million people, only about 3.6 millions are actually Singapore citizens, while the rest are migrants or expats, basically non-Singaporeans. I think that is quite amazing in itself. Considering the size of Singapore is very, very small, it is a tiny dot on the map. So if you go look at the map and you would like to see where is Singapore, most likely, chances are you won't be able to see it because of how small it is. And Singaporean likes to call Singapore the little red dot. Now, the red itself is probably because our national flag is red and white, and it's just an affectionate name that we have for Singapore, the little, because of the tiny size of it, the little red dot, because it's simply a dot on the map. Now, Singapore is a very multiracial society. In Singapore, we recognized at least four races who live in harmony together. What the biggest group is Chinese, and followed by Malays, followed by Indians, and then we also have Eurasians, which are a mixed heritage. And of course, aside from these, are all the migrants and foreigners that have come to reside in Singapore. In terms of languages, Singapore's national language is actually Malay. This is quite interesting, I think. And this is because previously Singapore was part of Malaysia for quite some time. Um, but of course, in terms of the language that we use mostly in daily conversation, I think is mostly English. But because the biggest group or the biggest race residing in Singapore is Chinese. I think more than 70% of us are Chinese. So English and Chinese are the most widely used languages in Singapore. Now, in terms of the national language, which is Malay, this impacts several things, one of them being the national anthem of Singapore. The national anthem of Singapore is sung in Malay. So, interestingly, probably when kids started to learn and sing the national anthem, maybe only a small number of them really understand what the words in the national anthem really means, because most of them generally they would only understand English or Chinese. Now, languages in Singapore. Like I mentioned, you can converse in English easily in Singapore, and we forgive, we can tolerate accents and different variation of pronunciation of English in Singapore because of so many people residing here, and we get used to different people speaking in different languages, and they try to communicate in English. I think it just makes it easier for people to communicate in Singapore. And from preschool, lessons are conducted in two languages here, either English and Chinese, or English with different languages like Malays and Tamils. So that really helps the people in Singapore to accept the different languages and cultures that people have. And also, in Singapore, most educational and workplaces, educational institutions like universities, schools, and offices uses English as a mode of communication. Um, so, like I said, if you come to Singapore, no matter where you're from, if you can communicate a little bit in English, then you'll be absolutely fine. Now, because of the aspect of multicultural and multiracial nature of Singapore, first of all, A lot of the things in Singapore are presented in 4 different languages. An example is the sign here, a danger or caution sign. This can be easily found anywhere in Singapore, in the construction sites and everything, as an example. So in this image, you can see the words are written in English, danger, keep out. It is also written in Chinese, followed by Malays, bahaya, followed by Tamils. This is very, very common. So all the signage, announcements, like in the trains, when there are announcements saying, please move and make space for the other passengers, or please hold on to the handrail when you go up the escalators, are all presented in 4 different languages. Right, so Singapore tries to cater for the differences that the multiracial society have in Singapore. And I think this is a very interesting aspect, a very commendable effort from Singapore government. And also, interestingly, because of these different languages, all the letters that we receive from the government, that means all the official letters, are at least 2 pages thick, because there will be one side of the page written in English, the other side written in Chinese, and then the next page, the one side will be written in Tamil, and then the other side will be in Malays. So I have been living here in for 24 years, and I keep receiving thick envelopes many times, and I'm not surprised anymore. Now, because of this, again, multicultural aspects of Singapore, we have been encouraged to celebrate everyone's and each other's big events or celebrational days. And children have been taught since young to celebrate the different celebrations. Like, for example, for Chinese, we have Chinese New Year's. For Malays, we have Hari Rayas. For Indians, we have Deepavali, which has just passed about 2 weeks ago. So this helps the children to recognize the differences that we have in Singapore, and not just to recognize, but to respect and also to celebrate these differences. We usually have public events for each of these celebrations, and everybody is welcome to come. And in schools, we also celebrate what we call the racial harmony day. So that day specifically is to celebrate the success of living in a multicultural society in Singapore. So kids in school will dress up with different cultural costumes, and then they will take pictures and have events to introduce different cultural games and food to the children. So that is a yearly thing, and most kids will look forward to it. From primary school until high school, most kids are taught primarily in English. So the main communication will be in English, but all of them are they must take what we call a mother tongue subject. So in this subject, every kid will be assigned their own mother tongue language. That means Mandarin for the Chinese kids, Tamil for the Indians, Malay for the Malays, and so on. So this helps the children to not just communicate or get used to communicate purely in English, but also they learn to appreciate their own mother tongues. And lastly, you might have heard about this. we have what we call Singlish. It's a short for Singaporean Singlish, and yes, Singlish have very strong accent. It is a mixture of different words taken from different dialects and different languages that we have in Singapore. And we, as language learners, I think all of us would understand how usually when we speak English with accent, mostly it's because the person speaking it is bilingual. So I believe it is something that we should embrace. And it's a funny example here. This is a sentence, one sentence comprising of different words taken from different languages. Day, woman faktor always makan at kopitiam one. When we date, we always eat at kopitiam. So as you can see, this is a perfect example to show you the different languages that mix together, that gel together in Singapore. And this sentence, I think, perfectly represents Singlish because Singlish is almost like an identity for Singaporean. It's a very interesting language. It's not the easiest language to to understand, to pick up because of the different aspects of it, and but it's definitely useful. And I think it's great to know these differences in that we have in Singapore because we we don't force unity out of conformity, so to speak. But I think it's great that Singaporeans try to strengthen unity by fostering diversity. So with this, that's all from me. I hope this has been informative and I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, and thank you.
Thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. I'm quite amazed that you have so many native language and like children can still choose their native language at school. It's really impressive. Let's see. I saw there were a lot of comments while you started your presentation, so I would like to go through a few of them as long as we have some time. Let's see first. Okay, so another surprise student as me. So there's one comment first from Barbara. Wow, so many people. Um, sorry, wait, I lost it. So many people are. Let's see. At least like bilingual. How many people? Most of the people are at least bilingual in Singapore. Is the question. So most of the people in Singapore are bilingual.
That's right.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Because the kids are taught since young to speak two languages. Like for example, my son is still in preschool, and the classes are conducted in two language. If the morning the class is conducted in English, then in the afternoon it will be conducted in Chinese and vice versa. So most people here at least can speak two languages. Some can speak more.
Yeah. Can I hop on
mm-hmm,
to that
mm-hmm.
question too? Actually, it's also a law by the Singapore education that requires everybody to be bilingual. The only time the law doesn't apply to some of these people are the older generation of Singaporeans, because at the time, the education system is a lot different then. But yeah, now it is, uh, or at least during my time, it was compulsory.
And
Mm-hmm.
even for the older generations, most of them can speak Malay and
Mm,
English as well.
yeah.
I see. That's interesting. That makes sense. Yeah. It's related to this, what you just said, but there's one question from Mercy. So does it mean that most people may not speak Malay even though it is a native language?
Yes, unfortunately,
Yeah.
yes.
Thank you.
They can sing the
Okay.
national anthem. They may not
Mhm.
they may not understand fully what or i- understand each and every word means.
Mhm.
But yeah, simple words they can understand probably, but not converse fully in Malay. That's right.
I understand. Yes. Thank you very
My
much.
dad's generation, they pick up Malay a little bit more because back then, we don't live in they don't live in flats. They live in, like, we call them kampong, which is Malay for a village. So before we're all housed in, people will interact more with each other, so they pick up a lot more languages back then. But today,
Oh, that's nice.
most of the young people, including myself, no, we don't speak Malay.
I don't know. I see. That's interesting. Let me see. I think this question was already answered, but there's one from RM. I don't know. I didn't know the national language is Malay. Do you teach Malay at school? For example, elementary and high school.
So in most schools, Malays are only taught as one of the mother tongue languages. So those who really learn Malays in school would be the Malay descent children. But of course, you can take courses if you want to learn Malays anywhere in Singapore.
Thank you. Okay, the next one, there's a comment from Akiko620. It's nice that the government issues letters in 4 languages. Yeah, I would say.
Yes,
Also,
yes,
Mercy
it's just a
again.
waste of papers.
Let's see. Mercy again. The racial harmony celebration seems really cool. I agree with that. Let's see.
Actually, in the
Okay.
airports in Singapore now, they also include Japanese and Korean languages on the sign. But anywhere else, in big malls, I've seen signs like that too. Uh, but in general, it's like Irma said, it's 4 languages. Yeah, they're trying to be more inclusive because
Yeah.
there are more Chinese and Korean Japanese and Korean migrants in Singapore now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that comment. Okay, there's a bit longer. Let's see. We have another comment from Luna Tree. A bit long. Let me read it out. So the population of people from overseas is increasing in the town next to where I live. The teachers at the elementary school in the town find it hard to teach and to communicate with kids from overseas because they don't understand Japanese. So some parents don't understand the letters from school because they are written in Japanese. I wonder how the teachers in Singapore handle these cases.
In terms of the foreigners living in Singapore, most likely or probably because the main communication that we use in schools in public settings are English, so the foreigners have less difficulty to understand because a lot of the foreigners who come to Singapore, at least they can speak English or Chinese. So in that sense, and of course, like we mentioned, all the official letters and everything, they're all available in different languages. So they do have options on which language they can understand better. Typically, not much. I think the hurdle is not as big as foreigners in Japan. That's what my thinking is. Yeah.
Yes. You're right. Yeah, it's really useful that they have in all languages. Yes. Thank you very much for answering that. Let's move on to the next few comments. So there's one from Cecile. Well, there are so many words from different languages in such a short sentence. I believe this would be about English. Okay, thank you for that. And another one from Akiko. I thought Singlish is only about accents.
It's a lot more. The accent
Yeah.
is the syntax of the sentence as well. We don't right now. Irma and I are speaking proper English, but in Singapore, we'll mix up. Like, for example, "Have you eaten?" will be the proper way of speaking English, but in Singapore, we would say, "Hey, you eat already or not?" Which it's
I would say
like,
makan already.
yeah, makan already. Like, we'll
Why not
mix.
get that?
Basically, we translate Chinese into English, so the structure of the sentence is jumbled up. The grammar is out the window, the English grammar. So yeah,
That's so interesting. Yeah.
Funny and
there's a lot.
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
I've had
also,
yeah, sorry, go on.
sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say my foreign friends, when they hear me speak to my parents, they thought I was speaking Chinese, but I'm speaking in Singlish. Yeah, sorry, go on, Irma.
Oh, and I'm just gonna add
Yeah.
that all of us are language learners, or at least bilingual in this forum. So I think a lot of us
Mm-hmm.
would understand that there are terms in different languages that perfectly describe something, but may not be
Yeah.
available in English or in other languages.
Um,
So Singlish sometimes it really incorporates these different words
mm-hmm.
into one sentence that and each of these words might be something that does not have equivalence in English. So it's interesting that way.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this student also said about Singlish that sounds interesting, and it's kind of a mixture of some language. Then Chinese, Tamil, Malay, etc. So I believe, yeah, that should be it. Okay, there's one last question I would like to go through from Yuhui. Yuhui, I'm sorry if I'm reading the name wrong. Is there a requirement for a second language at work, or is there an advantage if you are proficient in a second language?
In work settings, it is not a requirement. Most of
Mhm.
the companies here at least requires you to speak English for easy communication, and if you speak Chinese is
Yeah.
even better because of the different population of Chinese in Singapore, and
Hmm.
in any place, if you have second or third language, it will always be an advantage for you.
Okay, so it's an advantage then. Mhm. It's not a requirement, I think. Thank you
No.
very much, Irma, and thank you, Cassandra, for the comments. Thank you so
No
much.
problem.
We will stop here with the Irma's presentation and comments, and we will move on to Cassandra. So if you're ready, you can start anytime.
Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Cassandra. As you know, I'm from Singapore. I'm currently living in Vancouver, Canada. It's very cold right now. It's about 5 to 6 degrees Celsius. So, but in Singapore, it's summer all year round, so we don't have to worry about the cold. Um, Thank you, Irma, for that presentation. It was very, very insightful. And I thought it's interesting that she also mentioned in one sentence we have so many languages, and this is going to be a great example. So, why am I talking about how to order coffee and tea at hawker centers in Singapore? It's just ordering coffee and tea. What's the big deal, right? But it is a big deal because a lot of foreigners they think that Singapore we speak English, so it's easy to get by. But when they go to the market, they get shocked. They get shocked by the aunties and uncles not understanding what they want uh, for their coffee and when they're ordering coffee and tea. Um, so it's different ordering at the hawker centers compared to a cafe. When you order coffee and tea in a cafe, it's as per usual as how you would order coffee and tea in America. You have your Americano, your cappuccino, your latte. But at hawker centers, we don't have that. And our coffee and tea also taste different. So it's when you order coffee and tea, coffee, we say kopi. That's actually, I believe it's Malay for coffee. And tea is teh. And that's Hokkien for tea. As you can see, we're already mixing up the language. So when we order coffee and tea, it's usually a mix of Hokkien and Malay. And in one sentence, it can be both also. So here we go. So kopi is black coffee with condensed milk and sugar. So if you just say, Auntie, I want kopi, this is what they will give you. And then te will be tea with condensed milk and sugar. So Auntie, I want te, thank you. Yeah. And they will understand. If you just say coffee or tea, they will also give you this. But there's a lot more that goes behind it. So, for example, kopi peng is iced black coffee with condensed milk. Peng is Hokkien for ice. If you know a little bit of Chinese, it's kopi peng. Peng is also ice. So Chinese and Hokkien, there are some similarities in the pronunciation. So if you just say you want kopi or te, they usually just assume that it's hot. But if you emphasize kopi peng, then it's definitely iced. You want it cold. Okay? And kopi o, it's black coffee with sugar. It usually means without milk. This is actually my father's standard order of drink. Every morning he needs his kopi o. So, and kopi C is black coffee with evaporated milk and sugar. Why it's called C, I actually am not very sure. We just pick up these stuff and we learn. And if Irma knows where these come from, please feel free to jump in because I've been looking up online and there's not really any explanation for these. Yeah, unfortunately. So, kopi kosong is just black coffee without sugar or milk. Kosong is Malay for empty, for zero. So when we order, we also use this term when we order this Indian dish called roti prata. We usually have it for breakfast. And wait, is that right? Kosong. I want plain prata. We would sometimes say kosong. One kosong, please, meaning it's plain. So there are, because with prata we have other fillings as well. We have egg prata. We have nowadays people are getting creative. We have hot dog prata and cheese prata. So this is one of them. Kopi kosong. So kosong is Malay for zero. So kopi shutai. Coffee with condensed milk, but less sugar. So shu dai is Hokkien. Shu is less. Dai is sugar. So hence, kopi shu dai. So you're really just customizing your coffee or tea order by letting them know in very, very short terms. You don't have to say, Auntie, I want coffee with condensed milk but less sugar. You just say, kopi shutai, Auntie, and they will get it. Okay. And then kopi katai. It's black coffee with extra condensed milk. That means you get your usual coffee with condensed milk, but you add more condensed milk. So ka means to add. And again, this is Hokkien. There's Hokkien is actually widely used in Singapore as a dialect, but unfortunately it's more used for the vulgarities a little bit, but in like on a casual conversation. But even in like these kind of ordering food and all that, we use a lot of Hokkien for some reason. And then we have kopi po. Po means weak, and they would usually add more water, coffee with condensed milk. People who don't like their coffee very thick and don't like their coffee to be too strong or too sweet, they would ask for kopi bowl. Then kopi gao. Kopi gao. Gao again, it means strong. It means to add. So that means they want more coffee. They like their coffee thicker with the condensed milk. It doesn't mean more condensed milk. It just means the coffee is thicker, stronger. Some people like their coffee stronger, more caffeine. It keeps them awake. Or they like the taste of coffee. So they will order kopi gao. And then kopi tilo, that's extra, extra thick. I'm not a coffee person, so I will never order kopi tilo. And I've never heard of anyone ordering it, to be honest. Usually people order the stuff from the previous slide. Those are more common. And then we have kopi guyo. That is coffee with condensed milk and a slice of butter. Guyo is butter, and I believe that is also from Hokkien. And then we have kopi tarik. Tarik is Malay for a pool. So I don't know if you've seen people making coffee, but usually when they pull the coffee, it means that when they pour the coffee, they don't just pour like this. They pull it. They extend the coffee so that it's like a long stream of liquid going into the cup. What does that do? To be honest, I'm not very sure, but from what I heard from other people, they say that it makes the coffee or tea more fragrant, and they like that there's bubbles in the tea. It makes a foam on the coffee or tea. So yeah, but most people, they usually order teh tarik, which is pulled tea with condensed milk. And then we have kopi alia. Alia, again, is Malay for ginger. So it's pulled hot coffee with condensed milk, sugar, and ginger. I honestly have not. This is not very common from what I understand. Most people order teh alia. So that is pulled tea with condensed milk, sugar, and ginger. If you like ginger, this is a great combination with your coffee or tea. It's pretty spicy. I like mine spicy. Teh alia is one of my favorite drinks. It wakes me up, and it leaves the sensation in your on your tongue, in your mouth after eating and after drinking. And I don't know, it wakes me up. It motivates me and makes me want to do stuff. I think it's the spice. So that's kopi alia or teh alia. So this is basically the summary. These pictures are basically the summary of how to order coffee or tea in Singapore. You can use that, everything that I said here, you can use that interchangeably with tea. We can apply that to Milo as well. You have Milo in Japan. I believe you call it Milo. But in Singapore, we call it Milo. But we don't apply Milo to everything. Like there's no such thing as Milo alia, for example. But we have Milo Shudai, Milo Kosong, Milo Peng, Milo C. We have more on this first page than the second one. So if you go to Singapore and you want to order cheap coffee and tea, not the expensive ones from the cafe, this is how you order coffee and tea. You can find these images online. You can keep it on your phone, and if you need to, you can refer to it, and you can practice and use it. It'll be quite fun and interesting. So we have mix of other drinks like Milo Dinosaur. If you are in Tokyo, there's this place called Little Merlion. They make Milo Dinosaur. They make they basically sell authentic Singapore dish. So that place is a good place to explore some Singapore drinks. They have Milo Dinosaur. They have bandong. Bandong is a very unique drink. It's a rose syrup cold drink. It's really sweet. It's actually pretty refreshing on a hot day, especially since it's summer all year round in Singapore. So a lot of kids love this drink, bandong. Then we have Milo Godzilla. It's basically, so we have Milo Dinosaur, which is ice Milo with the Milo powder on top. But Milo Godzilla, it's Milo with ice cream and then the Milo powder. So if you ask me, it's a drink full of diabetes, full of sugar. It's a lot of sugar, but my husband loves this drink because it's a lot of sugar. Horlicks Kopi, it's actually there's a drink called Horlicks, but in Singapore we mix it. You can order Horlicks Kopi, so that's a taste of coffee in your Horlicks drink. It's quite unique to Singapore. And then we have Yuan Yang, which basically, Yuan Yang in Chinese is like, how should I say it? It's kind of like yin and yang. So it's like black and white. So this drink basically is a mix of coffee and tea. It's actually quite a unique taste. Some of them is pretty tasty, but some I think there's too much coffee and I'm not too much of a coffee person. So it tends to overpower the tea for me. So it really depends on where I get the yuan yang from. And Ovaltine. Ovaltine is another Singapore drink. It's a lot of kids like this drink as well. Again, because it's sweet and it's nice. So yeah, that is the end of my presentation. And again, it's not a lot of foreigners. I remember a story where a teacher told me, yeah, she can order bubble tea herself. She wanted to order bubble tea herself, and she didn't need my teacher's help. And when she tried to order the bubble tea, the auntie at the counter was like, "Huh? I don't understand." It basically means I don't understand. And she tried to say it in English, but I guess a lot of people tend to order in Chinese or in Singapore English and Singlish, so that they couldn't really understand the foreign American accent or something. So she tried a few times, and in the end, she gave up and asked my Singaporean teacher to order it for her. So sometimes it's something so simple, but it gets a little bit complicated, unfortunately, I guess. So yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for the presentation. Like, it was surprising. I didn't know there are so many informations. Like, it's so hard to get coffee there. Like, some of them, honestly, you said there's like coffee O for coffee with zero sugar, I think, or no
Yeah.
milk. But
Yeah.
then at the other names that you use to order coffee, it doesn't mention anymore if this is without sugar but with milk, or without sugar but or
Right.
cold coffee. So I think it's really hard to choose the right
Yeah,
one to see.
it is.
Yeah.
So growing up, I just kind of learned and pick up, and sometimes I ask questions that
Mhm.
the adults can't answer either. They just tell me it's the way it is.
So
But
just remember
usually,
that it is. Yeah.
yeah, usually kopi just they just assume it's usually with milk unless you say otherwise. Yeah.
If
Mhm.
it's any
And milk
consolation,
and sugar too, both of them, right? Sorry.
Sorry.
yes,
Coffee is milk with sugar, both of them, so it's a mix
yes,
already,
Yeah.
or
yes,
okay, yeah.
yes. But if it's any
Thank
consolation,
you.
I do have foreigner friends, and most of them have app in their phones that basically
Oh,
using the app, you just indicate I want to order tea or coffee. with sugar or no sugar? And then they will click with milk or without milk, and then they will click, and then the application will come out with kopi or kosong, for example, and they proudly show it to the auntie.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
yes, so
That's
it'll
smart.
be interesting to
That's smart.
try.
So
Some
download the
accepting
app.
people would do that. Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you
it
so much.
tastes very
Okay.
different from your usual cafe coffee, so it's worth a try.
I would bet. Yes, and let's see, we also had a few comments. It's gonna be interesting. Let's see. So first, Barbara's asking you, what is your favorite type of coffee to have? So
I
which
don't drink coffee. I drink tea.
for you?
So the tea I usually order is Desi Shutai. That means tea with evaporated milk and less sugar. And I apply that with Milo as well, depending on the day.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Sounds sweet. How about you, Irma?
I don't drink coffee either.
You don't drink coffee as
So
well?
my favorite tea is teo or teo peng. So teo means only tea and sugar, no milk.
Mm-hmm,
And teo peng means ice, tea with sugar. So depending whether it's too hot, I will
mm-hmm,
order the ice, or otherwise I just order the warm version of the drink. My
oh, okay.
husband likes teh or siew-dai. So that means tea without milk, tea with less sugar.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. I don't also remember tea or should I? I think me and all the commenters here are the same. Right now, maybe taking notes. Thank you so much. Okay, let's see. Moving on to the next comment. Next question from Mercy. What is Ho Hokkien? Hokkien. Is it Chinese dialect?
Yes, it's
Hokkien,
a
I think.
yeah, it's a Chinese dialect, Hokkien. It originates from China, called this
Mhm,
island called Fujiantao. That means literal. The direct translation would be like Hokkien Island. So that dialect comes from there. It's the same with
mhm.
Cantonese. It comes from a different part of China. Yeah.
Thank you for answering that question. Okay, another comment from Punatri. It's interesting that peng sounds like a Chinese word. They say coffee rather than cafe. It's a great example of how the words are mixed up.
Mm-hmm.
That's a comment from.
Yeah.
Also, there's one from RM saying, we have ginger tea but never heard of coffee with ginger. And also other drinks look cool, look good. I wonder where are you from, RM? Coffee with ginger. True. Mm, yeah, let's see. Cecil here says, it sounds that it's easy to order coffee or tea once you learn the term for it. Mine seems to be. So Cecil's favorite would be, let's see. Sorry. Kopi gadai. Kopi gadai. Am I reading it well?
So extra sugar.
Extra sugar. Sounds good. Okay, there's one student, Vinatri, saying that I have been to Singapore once more than 10 years ago. I'm sorry I didn't try this drink, including coffee. Next time I will. Please do so.
It's kind of
Yes.
easy to remember. Kopi does sound like coffee, and tea does sound like
Mm-hmm.
tea. Tea does sound
Yeah.
like tea. So, yeah, not too hard to remember. It's just the extra stuff.
If you like sweet stuff, we would recommend trying Milo Dinosaur.
Yes, yes,
I
yes.
think it's
Oh, yes.
yes, it's something quite
And
unique. Milo with extra Milo powder on top.
yes,
Yes, just be sure you drink a lot of water after that.
Oh, yes.
you will need a
You
cup of
can,
water for Milo Dinosaur, like you said, is it? Yeah.
yeah, if you have too much of it, you can feel a little sick. At least I do, but my husband doesn't. He's
Mm.
like, "Oh, it's so good." So
Yeah,
I
that
guess
was
it
your
depends.
favorite, your husband's favorite, right? With a lot of sugar. Yes, let's see. Okay, so a few comments left. There's one from Akiko saying that it was interesting and thank you. Also, Yang K says, it's interesting that Hokkien is so similar to Taiwanese but different.
Actually, yeah,
Yes.
I believe in Taiwan they do speak Hokkien. They have like how should I say, the general Hokkien language, and then they have their own dialects in
Mm-hmm.
what do you call that? The other branches
Hokkien.
of Hokkien as well. Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Let's see, Mayoshikano says that in my childhood I had trouble ordering water at SG because of the difference in the accent and laughing.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah. I For some of my
Mm-hmm.
Japanese students that plan to move to Singapore, this is one of the first things I teach them so that they don't get shocked when they try to order coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not just at the hawker centers, it's
Yes.
also at the food courts. Just now, Irma said kopitiam. It's
Mm-hmm.
basically the Singapore food court, and they receive orders like that too. Kopi si,
Mm-hmm.
kopi o kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I see. Okay, so one last comment from RM saying that it would be hard to work at coffee shops in Singapore. You have to learn so many coffee and tea names. True, yes,
I
I would say
guess
the same.
I guess it's the same as working at Starbucks. How
Okay,
many
it
pumps
might
of
be right.
syrup and stuff.
Mhm. All right, then. Thank you so much, everyone, for commenting and for sending us questions. Feel free to send tip points if you want to, and you can also check the seminar files here if you want to download them. I would recommend you download them for all the terms and as well the first presentation and the second one. They're all together. And feel free to also book other lessons with our tutors here. Of course, if you both have one moment to maybe say a bit more about your lessons and what you teach on Cafetalk, that would be great.
Omar, you can start.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Lina. So I teach both Bahasa Indonesia and English in Cafe Talk. And I came from an IT background, although I don't work in the industry
Oh,
anymore. But if let's say you work in the IT industry and would like to practice speaking English or Bahasa Indonesia with your colleagues or your customers, I can help you. So anytime, I'm usually free in the morning and in the afternoon. And
thank you
Cassandra,
very
to you.
much.
Thank you, Irma. Thank you, Lena. I teach English on Cafe Talk. I teach conversational English. I also teach some academic English to children as well. I hold interviews, practice interviews in English. If you have a job interview in English and you need practice, I have lessons for that too. Recently, I have some Christmas classes on my page as well. Um, Teaching Christmas songs, where they originate from, Christmas decorations, where they originate from. Those are interesting because when I found that out, it's not as joyful as we think, actually. And there's a lot of history behind it. And I'm also a filmmaker. I'm a filmmaker first before I'm an English teacher. I do some directing and some writing. So if you're interested in the behind the scenes of films, I can teach you a little bit about that too, what we do behind the camera, besides all the glamour that you see on TV. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, both of you. It was really nice having the symposium with you too, and I think all the students watching enjoyed the streaming. So with this, we'd conclude our symposium, the 28th one. So whenever you would like to check the video again, you can also check the notifications from Cafetalk, and hope to see you guys soon, all of you, and have a nice day or a nice
Thank
day.
you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you all.